4th of July, fireworks in the sky, but the truth's still buried underground. Royal Low, yeah. They told me, wave the flag while the chains still clank. Told me praise the names on the blood-soaked banks. Told me freedom was born in the room full of men who wrote liberty down while they own human skins. So fuck your founding fathers and the myths they made. I don't pledge to the lie, I don't kneel to the page. You can light up the sky, I remember the smoke from the fields, from the ships, from the necks in the rope. You call it independence, I call it selective. You call it patriotic, I call it protective. Other stories so fragile it cracks when questioned. Truth knocks once and they call it aggression. Yeah. Red for the blood they spill, white for the lies they told, blue for the bruises left on the bodies they sold. Don't ask me to celebrate what never included mine. I came with the receipts, I came to redraw the line. Fuck your founding fathers, I don't owe them praise. They built a nation on our backs, then told us smile through the pain. Fuck your founding fathers, let the fireworks cry. This ain't freedom for the people. If the truth still gotta hide, yeah. No justice, no peace, no lie gets crowned. We don't worship old ghosts when the roots scream loud. Fuck your founding fathers. On the 4th of July, I'm lighting up the truth while they light up the sky. They say, look how far we came. I say, look what it cost. Every courthouse got a shadow, every victory got lost. They gave statues to the takers, made heroes out of thieves, put their faces on the money while the hungry couldn't breathe. Don't lecture me on freedom from a stolen land stage. Don't quote old documents with blood on the page. Don't tell me be grateful for a seat at the table when my people built the room and got treated unstable. You can't buy me through the truth, you can dress it in stars, but the anthem still echoes like chains behind bars. I don't hate the people, I hate the disguise. I hate when the guilty get praised as the wise. Red for the blood they spill, white for the lies they told, blue for the bruises left on the bodies they sold. Don't ask me to celebrate what never included mine. I came with the receipts, I came to redraw the line. Fuck your founding fathers, I don't owe them praise. They built a nation on our backs, then told us smile through the pain. Fuck your founding fathers, let the fireworks cry. This ain't freedom for the people. If the truth still gotta hide, no justice, no peace, no lie gets crowned. We don't worship old ghosts when the roots scream loud. Fuck your founding fathers. On the 4th of July, I'm lighting up the truth while they light up the sky. Don't call it hate when the wound speaks back. Don't call it division when our name was fact. Don't call it progress while the system still bites. Don't call it freedom if we still gotta fight. I'm not here for comfort, I'm not here to pretend. I'm here for the children who deserve better than this. Better than myths, better than chains, better than flags used to cover up pain. So this one's for the ancestors who never got rest, for the names never written but who gave us their best, for the mothers who prayed, for the fathers who ran, for the babies born fighting in the stolen man's plan. This is not disrespect, this is correction. This is not rebellion, this is resurrection. You can keep your parade, I keep speaking the truth. I don't need permission to remember my roots. Royal oak in the soil, truth in the flame. If the crown came with silence, then I don't want the name. But if the crown means standing when the whole world falls, then I'm 10 toes down till the real story's told. Fuck your founding fathers, I don't owe them praise. They built a nation on our backs, then told us smile through the pain. Fuck your founding fathers, let the fireworks cry. This ain't freedom for the people. If the truth still gotta hide, no justice, no peace, no lie gets crowned. We don't worship old ghosts when the roots scream loud. Fuck your founding fathers. On the 4th of July, lighting up the truth while they light up the sky. Fireworks fade. truth don't die. Royal Low. 4th of July. Not your myth, not your lie, not your version of my life.
All right. Hello, Grand Rising, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please go ahead and like, share, subscribe, and all of that. Okay. Also, don't forget to double check and make sure that you're still subscribed, especially if you have not been receiving your notifications. Okay. And so, hello, 57 Beige Fox, Quiet Storm, Alice, Deronda, Ray is here. All right, Desmond, let's get ready to get black into it. Okay. Chike Hero is here. Ray Bolden, I'm sorry. Okay. No Charge, Simply Sandra. All right, Andrea, Jacqueline, joy to the world. So with that all been said, let's have a brief word from my sponsor. Hey, Nalon, I see you, beloved. Let's have a brief word from my sponsor, and then we'll get started. Lights up. Hey, Alton, Star Child, Jojo. All right, here we go. Abdul, I see you, beloved.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, with that all been said, don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Craft. And you can also find her products at Walmart.com. And don't forget that she sells beard oil. Okay, so now with that being said, let's get into it. Because Warren Hudson's father, Dr. Benjamin Hudson, I've told you all about him before. He works in toxicology. That's one of his subspecialties, which I find interesting, specifically since Officer Rage Batum Tatum came out the other day saying that it's going to be 100% guaranteed that when the report comes out that there are going to be illegal substances in Nolan's system. Okay, I want you all to remember that. So let's talk about it because he's added $50 million. I'm sorry, $50,000 to the reward money. Now, I find that very interesting. And if he thinks that's going to make it look like Warren doesn't know anything or there's nothing shady going on, nothing to see here, folks, yeah, well, that's not going to work. Okay. Nolan Wells' friend, and this is TMZ reporting, and I told you it's so annoying that they continue to call these devils Nolan's friends. Okay, so Nolan Wells' friend's dad offers $50,000 reward for information. Okay, he's offering a hefty cash reward in hopes of shedding light on the mysterious circumstances surrounding Nolan's death. And so Dr. Benjamin Hudson, the father of Warren Hudson, tells TMZ that he's offering the reward for any information that leads to the arrest and conviction of the person responsible for Nolan's death, laying a $50,000 reward on the table for information that leads investigators to whoever is responsible. Now, I want you all to pay attention to the play here. Because why does he think he needs to offer any money? They already have a reward out there. Okay. And then if he wanted to be helpful and offer reward, why is he doing that now in the 11th hour? Why didn't he do that in the beginning? I'm going to tell you why, and I'm so glad you asked. You see, this is all just a cover, in my opinion, because of all this information that keeps coming out. Now, they have already been so desperately trying to debunk the audio that we all heard. I remember how I told you all the more evidence that comes out, the more they're going to try to clean up. I've been told as of yesterday, okay, that they have a whole cleanup crew down there in Mississippi. And we're going to talk about that on the next slide. Okay. But now with that all being said, here's the thing. Like I told you, every time something comes out, they come with another story. Funny thing is, Warren didn't bother to mention that they lied in that police report. Okay, we all saw it. For those of you who missed it, go back and watch that video from yesterday when I showed the receipts of the 15-page police report, where it specifically said that they said that Nolan stayed with some unknown woman. Like they didn't even know who this woman was. Like they didn't even know her name. Okay? So full of it. If they really wanted to help, they would have been helping from day one. Okay? And so with that all being said, let's continue. Let me get rid of the troll. Moderators, please look for the trolls. Okay, now let's continue. Like, everyone, please like and share. So Dr. Hudson also firmly defends the teenagers who were with Nolan that day, saying that he believes the boys on the 3 boats had no involvement in Nolan's death, and plainly puts it as, we still don't know what happened. Yeah, we still don't, but I think they absolutely know. And here's the thing. Of course, he's going to say that. One of them is his son. Why would he say anything different? And if he said any of them were guilty, well, that would still include his son since he was in the presence of them. That would at least make him an accomplice, okay? A witness to a crime that he didn't report. Okay, now he says the Hudson family has been living through a nightmare. Okay, what about the Wonsleys? I want you all to also pay attention to the fact that they constantly talk about their problems, the threats they're receiving, how their lives have been disrupted. They never, in the times that they're doing this, they never offer any sympathy and empathy to the Wonsleys, who are also, okay, who are actually receiving threats. People trying to get Mrs. Wonsley fired from her job and all sorts of things, lying on them, disparaging them. They don't say anything about them. It's me, me, me. They want to make everything about them. They are clearly playing the victim. And it's really disrespectful. Anyway, goes on to say that his family has been living through a nightmare since the case captured national attention. And according to Dr. Hudson, his family has received thousands of death threats. Now, please pay attention to that number, because that is the same thing that Warren said. When someone uses an outrageous number like that, because we are sure, okay, we are sure that they have not been receiving thousands, okay? Even if they haven't been receiving threats, thousands, and who's counting? Okay, so that's the same thing that Warren said. When people inflate numbers like that and embellish, that's just for dramatic effect. And they're being very performative, in my opinion. Now, goes on to say something he believes, when he talks about these death threats, they said something he believes has made it even harder for investigators to get the information they need. How in the hell are his family getting threats? What does that have to do with investigators getting the information they need? See, here's what we need to pay attention to. What they're trying to essentially do here, they're trying to act as though all of this other stuff that's going on online, people speculating, making videos about it, talking about it, coming up with their own theories, giving our own opinions, that all of this is hampering the investigation. But how? How? How would anything that we're saying hamper the investigation? Okay, the police are out there doing their job that they're trained to do. At least that's what they're supposed to be doing. Okay, I would venture to ask, why haven't the police arrested anyone? Why have they not found any probable cause? What about the lies that have been found? Okay, the lies that have been uncovered. Okay, all of these things that are clearly suspicious to normal people, they don't find any of it suspicious. But we're supposed to think that people talking about the case and his family receiving threats is going to stop the investigators from conducting their job thoroughly. I don't see what one thing has to do with the other. Okay, that's all a load of BS as far as I'm concerned. The investigators can't get the information they need. It's harder for them to get the information they need. What's making it so hard? I want him to specify. Now, the father speculates that the intense public scrutiny may have discouraged potential witnesses from coming forward, adding that we feel people aren't talking because of the pressure of the case. Why would people not want to talk if they knew anything simply because of pressure from the public or public scrutiny? The public is scrutinizing the people that were with Nolan when he left that morning of the 4th. That's who the public is scrutinizing. So any witnesses that will come forward giving information, why would the public scrutinize them? And if the public did scrutinize them, it would only be the MAGA minions. Okay, it would only be the MAGA minions, because they don't want the truth to come out. Okay, those are the people making the real threats. They're trying to get Nancy Grace taken off the air. Okay, they've been threatening Willie D, I heard. All right. So at the end of the day, when he's talking about threats, the only people making threats are people who look like him. C-Stan says, I had a dream that the fake picture that showed Nolan buried in the sand. Noticed that the boy in the pic looks like Bart. I think it was a warning. Yeah, he did look like Bart. And yeah, that definitely was a fake video. I mean, it wasn't Nolan. But yeah, I agree with that, beloved. And thank you for your insight to the topic and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, by offering the $50,000 reward, Dr. Hudson says he hopes anyone with credible information will finally step forward so Nolan's loved ones can get answers and investigators can determine exactly what happened. Stop trying to paint this narrative that anything else that's going on outside of Ocean Springs is hampering the investigation. The investigators aren't doing their job because they don't want to. They don't want the truth. They don't want answers. They don't want to give justice to Nolan's family. Now, this is my opinion, but it's obvious to see that they're not doing things like they could or should. Because some of these little thugs should have already been arrested. Like I said, Warren admitted to a crime, underage drinking, and then how come the police haven't asked them who supplied the alcohol and the rugs that they claim that Nolan took? Okay, how come they haven't asked about that? And if they have, what are the answers? And how come nobody's been arrested? Because somebody brought the stuff there, right? And we all know that Nolan was likely not doing anything illegal as far as substances. Okay, he was going to get tested for Division I football. So they can miss me with that. Now, as you know, Nolan was found dead. Okay, they go back to tell us about Nolan. Now, they say investigators have announced that they're looking at Nolan's death as a potential accidental drowning with no evidence of a crime. And so this is my point. If this is how they're still looking at it, okay, after all these weeks have passed, then why is he sitting here trying to act as though anything that people are talking about has anything to do with the investigation? Because clearly they've already made up their minds. Okay, here we are almost a month later. In 2 days, it'll be a month later. I'm sorry, in about 4 days, it'll be a month later. And you haven't changed your minds about your suspicions, your speculation. So investigators have announced that they're looking into the death as potential accidental drowning with no evidence of a crime, as his family and the public anxiously await answers on what really happened to Nolan Wells. Well, I think he should start, talking to the people around him, and I mean the people in his own house. Okay? That's what I think. But let's talk about this, because here's the thing. Now, if Warren is guilty of having any sort of involvement in the demise of Nolan, which I, again, absolutely believe that he does, I believe he knows exactly what happened. Okay? So with that all being said, if that be the case, then why would his father offer reward money? And has this happened before? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Let's talk about it. It absolutely has. And see, here's the reason. The reason that a killer, and I'm not saying Warren's a killer. I'm not saying any of them are killers, but I think that they are. So with that being said, let's just talk about it in a hypothetical sense. Now, a killer might offer a reward to divert suspicion, okay, to project false innocence or control the investigation's narrative, to have people looking over there and not over here. It's deception and guilt sometimes when killers do these things, are people that know who the killer is and are trying to protect them. It's also an elaborate way to come up with an alibi creation. See, by publicly lamenting the crime and funding a search, that makes the killer look like a grieving or concerned citizen or a grieving friend, someone who's simply trying to help. It's also a form of misdirection. You see, blaming an imaginary person, or not even an imaginary person, that's another case. We'll talk about that in a second. But blaming someone else or looking as if someone else did it and you're trying to help capture this person, that basically shifts the focus entirely away from the actual culprit. Okay, and it also, in some cases, not this one, I wouldn't say, because of the fact that everyone in Ocean Springs, including law enforcement, they all seem to be so tight knit, okay, on code, if you will. And Trayston let us know that in his interview with Tatum. So, but it's a way to control the police. Okay, participating loudly in the search. This helps the killer to monitor exactly what law enforcement's doing in real time. And it's also arrogance. Okay, I would think that only an arrogant person would be bold enough to do something like that. A narcissist. See, some offenders believe they're smarter than the detectives and everybody else, who's looking into the case. And sometimes it can be attention seeking. They want the spotlight, feeding their ego. okay, craving drama. There are a myriad of reasons. But you know what? This is not a new, this is nothing new because I've seen this story before. Okay, I've seen this exact story before. For one, if you all heard of the Murdaugh case, have you all heard about that? The guy Alex Murdaugh happened back in June of 2021. Yeah, a rich white folk. Okay, so, disgraced South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh shot and killed his wife Maggie and his 22-year-old son Paul at their hunting estate. And then 2 months later, in an attempt to project the image of a grieving and desperate father and husband, well, Murdaugh and his surviving son announced that they were going to offer a $100,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible. Prosecutors later demonstrated that this was basically a deliberate effort to redirect focus away from his own financial crimes and growing suspicion about the death. About the deaths. Now, with that all been said, you see, this is nothing new. Okay? At the end of the day, like stuff, everyone please like and share. And then there was also the case of Michael Peterson, who in December of 2001, he was a corporate executive. His wife, Kathleen Peterson, was found dead at the bottom of the staircase in their North Carolina home. Now, her husband, Michael, claimed that she suffered an accidental fall. During the initial investigation, he basically offered a $25,000 reward. Okay, so I'm just saying this is what these people do. Okay, this is what they do. So, and here's the thing with that whole Murdaugh case, I think they had like a documentary about that on Netflix or something or other. But the murders occurred on land at Moselle, and the family, they had this 1,700-acre hunting estate, okay, in Islandton, South Carolina. Now, after Alex shot Paul with a shotgun inside of the feed room and then shot his wife Maggie with an AR-style rifle near the property's dog kennels, mind you, he claimed that he was visiting his sick mother during the shootings and came home to find the bodies. He immediately blamed the murders on vigilantes, saying they were seeking revenge for a boat crash. Okay, and then offered that money for the reward. But the downfall came when a video recovered from Paul's phone, filmed at the dog kennels just minutes prior to the murders, captured Alex's voice. Listen to this. Listen to this. Captured Alex's voice in the background, which shattered his alibi. Now, where does that sound like that's familiar? Oh, that's right. It sounds like when they made that call to Cito, and we heard the voices in the background. Hey, Michi. And we heard the voices in the background, right? So that's the same thing that happened with him. He was caught on audio in the background. Now, in this case of the background, they want us to think that that's not what we heard, that we couldn't have heard that. And look how quickly they came out with another story to try to cover that up. Oh, there's two people suddenly who come out of the woodwork talking about they saw Nolan after the boat left at 4:30. Now, if they in fact saw, and I want you all to really think about this, okay? Now, if witnesses, they say it was two at least. So if witnesses actually saw Nolan on the island after the boat left at 4:30, what would make any of us believe that these alleged witnesses actually knew that it was after their boat had left when they saw Nolan? Were they watching Warren and them, all of them the whole time? Were they watching Warren and Wyatt and Bart and whoever else was on the boat? How did they know that that particular boat was gone when they happened to see Nolan? Because I would think with all the people that they said was out there, the hundreds or maybe even more, all of those people out there having a good time partying, doing whatever they're doing, they had time to sit there and notice Nolan and then say, oh, the boat's already gone with his friends. How would they know that? And if everybody who's in the water, for the most part, leaves their phones on the boats, then how would they have known what time it was when they, in fact, saw Nolan? These are the questions I would ask if I were an attorney, okay? If I were the prosecutor and they went to trial. But they're likely not going to trial because it's going to be a sham of the grand jury, in my opinion. And even if they do, it's going to be a potentially all-white jury with a bunch of people from the same town that all play golf and go to church and have brunch and all of that together. Okay. Another thing is they're trying so desperately to shape and mold public opinion. You see, this is very important because if this case does eventually go to court, the people that are watching everything that's going on right now on social media, those people will be potential jurors. And so that's one of the reasons they want us to shut the hell up. Because the more we're finding evidence or information or whatever, or coming to conclusions or whatnot, and posting about it and talking about it, that's all things they don't want potential jurors to hear. So this is why every time something comes up, then they come back and they try to counter it, putting out their own narrative. They're desperately trying to control the narrative, just like they did with the Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf case. Okay? This is just what the devils do. Hey, Miss Tree says $50,000 to offer. You got $4 cops to look the other way. Right. I absolutely believe it. Okay. Thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel, beloved. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, with that all being said, and let's not forget they have Officer Tap Dance running interference. Okay. He's been doing that, and he's been doing a pretty good job of it. Now, I do believe that he was on News Nation again. Let me just take a look so we can check this out and see what this devil had to say. Nolan Wells' family disputes Brandon Tatum's account. Hold on, let's get into this. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Now, this is that lady. This is the lady on News Nation that I do not like. Remember the lady who invited Officer Tap Dance on their last time when Tesla Figaro was on there? Yeah, she's hosting. So let's get into it. Oh, yeah, I saw a clip of I saw a clip this morning on X where Nancy Grace had him on her show. I didn't watch the full show yet. I just saw a clip on X.
Autopsy results inconclusive. Rumors continue to swirl around the death of Nolan Wells, the 18-year-old who was found dead after boating with his friends on 4th of July weekend. Wells' parents and their attorney, Ben Crump, spoke with Chris Cuomo earlier tonight, and Nolan's mother said there's only one question she wants answered. Watch.
At the end of the day, we would want what any parent would want, which is answers to find out what happened.
They also listened to part of an interview that Brandon Tatum did with one of Nolan's friends, and here's how Nolan's stepfather responded to it.
You heard that kid Trace in the interview say that he was friends with Nolan and that you guys would know him. Do you know him? Do you recognize him?
No, I don't. Just because you park your vehicle in someone's yard doesn't mean that they have to know you.
I'm sorry, but isn't that exactly what I said? Okay. Isn't that exactly what I said? And if he was really Nolan's best friend, like he claims, there's no way he would be trying to discredit Nolan's family, his parents. He would be instead offering his sympathies, but he's acting like they're the rage baiters or the race baiters. Okay? That's what he's acting like. That's what they're all acting like. And then trying to drag Ben Crump. But you fools are sitting down with Officer Tap Dance. Please make it all make sense.
Sounds more to me like he's more focused on getting people to know him and getting away from the fact that his so-called best friend is not here anymore.
Brandon Tatum is the host of the Officer Tatum Show, and like I just mentioned, he spoke with some of Nolan's friends. He joins us now. Brandon, thank you for being here. So first, just your reaction to Nolan's stepfather saying he doesn't recognize his friend Trace, who you interviewed, basically alleging that you didn't know him very well at all, if at all.
It's slightly disappointing. I mean, I don't know these people, to be honest. I don't know who's really friends or not. I'm just going off of what Trayston told me, but Trayston did share pictures of him with Nolan at prom. He told me he not only just parked the car outside, he had been over Nolan's house multiple times, and he also gave Nolan a ride to school on multiple occasions. So it's very confusing. I don't know why a young man would say that he's friends and literally be emotional when he talked about Nolan. I mean,
He wasn't that emotional. And then he's saying this when he's repeating what Trayson or Warren says. Notice how he never says allegedly or supposedly. He always says it as if it's a fact just because they said it. And that's what these stupid MAGA minion types, this is what they always do. They will sit there and try to tell you something and speak on it as if it's factual, but they will never show you any receipts. That's what they won't do. Okay, said that he took Nolan to school all the time. How do you know that for a fact?
He literally cried and teared up off camera, and I felt like it was very genuine. And for the parents to say that they don't know him at all.
Notice how he says that he literally cried and teared up off camera. So let me get this straight. He sat there during the entirety of the interview with his arms folded, clearly a defensive posture, as I've told you before, and not tearing up, not crying, okay, talking in a very controlled, almost monotone tone, and then choosing his words, like very slowly when he was speaking. That's a sign of someone being deceptive, and also someone who's trying to make sure they don't slip up and say the wrong thing. Choosing his words carefully. Now, if he was teared up, he waited till he got off camera. Why? Okay, because usually if you get choked up, you can't hold it back. You can try, but there'll be some semblance of it. Like we'll see the tears in your eyes, or we'll hear your voice change, or your throat get choked up. Just like yesterday when I showed you all the clip of Nancy Grace, and she mentioned how her fiance was murdered right before they were to get married. And I told you, I said, look, she's got tears in her eyes. That was real human emotion. Okay, so if you have real human emotion, you can't stop that. You can't control that. Why would you hold it in and then you get off the camera and then you want to let it all out? Please. If you're sitting here trying to convince people that you cared and loved Nolan and felt for him like he was your bro, you should have let that show if that were really in you, but it's not in any of them because they didn't give a damn about Nolan. And this little token Negro right here, all he's trying to do is stick to the script and fit in with those boys. Okay, that's all he's trying to do. And I really honestly don't think that he believes that they did anything to Nolan. I think that he likely believes whatever they told him because he seems very naive and just stupid to me. Okay, it just seems very stupid to me. Coming on there with those dirty arse pants. And somebody said that's the style. Well, even if it is the style, anyone with common sense would know that you look dirty and filthy, okay, specifically sitting on a white couch, okay, for an interview that millions of people are going to see. I would think that someone who has any amount of sense would have known to wear something more appropriate, okay? He looks like he just jumped out of a dumpster, but let's continue.
And won't even consider the fact that he believed he was friends with Nolan. It's very shocking to me, and I don't know if they're being genuine because you don't always know your children's friends,
right? Or
are they still trying to hold on to this agenda that no one who disagrees with the narrative of racism can possibly be associated with them because it destroys their money. Well, I'm not saying the parents' money grift, but Benjamin Crump's money grift.
Yeah, we heard from Nolan's parents and of course his mother.
Tatum has a whole lot of nerve to accuse Benjamin Crump of a money grift. He's a civil rights attorney. How can someone be called a grifter when they're doing their job that they went to college and got a degree to do? When this is their career, their line of work. How can you call any attorney, okay? How can you call any attorney a grifter just based off of the types of cases that they take on? Because you're upset. Here's the thing. If there were a white man representing the Wansley saying and doing the same thing that Ben Crump is doing, do you really think they would be calling him a grifter? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But see, MAGA minion types, they don't like Ben Crump because they know how he gets down. They know that he's going to shine a light on it, and then people are going to start looking and paying even more attention. And then they'll be further under scrutiny. And eyes will be focused on them. So that's a problem. You know what it reminds me of? Like I told you all last week, when I rewatched that movie, Mississippi Burning, it reminded me of when the feds came to town. When the feds came to town to do their job and to find out who had done something, if anyone, to the 3 civil rights workers that had come up missing suddenly, the town was saying the same things that people are saying in this case. And it was just so crazy because I was sitting there thinking, Mississippi Burning was based off of real events that happened in the 1960s. And here we are. It's almost 2030, folks. And we're still going through the same things, and they're still saying the same BS. They, in the beginning of this case, remember, the MAGA meetings were saying, oh, it's a psyop, and calling the mom and dad crisis actors, and saying that this was just a psyop to start a race war. These are the kinds of idiotic things they were saying in the narratives they tried to paint. But I also told you that when you watch that movie, Mississippi Burning, they were doing the same thing back then. They were saying, oh, it's just a hoax. Okay, it's just a publicity stunt for the FBI. It's a hoax by that guy, by that fella, Martin Luther King. That's what they were saying. So this is a pattern. This is what they've done throughout history. Okay? They light a fire, they strike a match, and then when everything burns down, they act as though they have no idea how it happened or that it even happened. This isn't real. They did this for attention, for publicity, to make it look like we did it. These are the kind of things they say, talking about witch hunts, and then said, oh, you all just don't like white people. So because we want justice, that's the narrative they want to put out there. But let's continue.
Any parent would want to know what happened, and she expressed that. But there are motives with Ben Crump and his history. There are lawsuits now suing his friends and social media companies fueled by Ben Crump. Do you think that he's helping this family or hurting them in their quest for answers?
Well, Katie, I think he's destroying the reputation of this family and also hurting this investigation. The fact that he put out the autopsy prematurely when law enforcement didn't even put out the autopsy is it can convolute the investigation, because now
you all hear this. So now he's saying that Ben Crump shouldn't have put out the independent autopsy results. Why not? Just because they have something down there to hide doesn't mean that he has to wait on them. They're not going to release their autopsy. And if they do, it'll be after it's going to a grand jury and there's likely no indictment. Okay, let's just sit back and wait for it.
Now, when you interview witnesses, you don't know if they are saying things because they saw it on television or have they genuinely had an experience. Only they would have if they were actually there at the scene. And then also, I want to believe his mother. I don't have any reason necessarily, because I don't know her personally, to believe that she would just lie. But when I look at the facts, why wouldn't she communicate with with Warren and their family? They showed me text messages. They showed me phone calls where they called and reached out to her. And if I personally want to know what happened to my child, the first person I'm going to talk to is the people who last saw him alive. I don't understand why they take the position of saying it's us versus y'all. And now you want to subpoena phones and do things like that, which are going to take, I don't know, months for it to come out. And they may not even be granted. I mean, you got to think, Nolan.
You've got to subpoena phones. The police should have already taken their phones. They should have already confiscated and gone through their phones. They asked to go through Nolan's phone, and the parents gave them permission, but they said they're also going to have their own team go through them as well. My question is, why in the hell do they want Nolan's phone? Nolan is deceased. Why don't they want those people's phones, the ones who were there with him? And somebody said something in the chat. I meant to mention that comment, but somebody said something in the chat a little while ago about somebody took Nolan's phone and mistakenly gave it to somebody. I don't know where you got that from, but I haven't heard or seen anything reporting about that. The bottom line is, whatever kind of story you got that from or wherever that came from, the bottom line is they left Nolan, according to them, if they want us to believe it, they left Nolan there without a phone. And who does that? And that's another thing. I want you to pay attention to how the MAGA minions come in your chats and make up stories that nobody ever heard because they clearly made it up. Now, I'm not saying that story's made up, but I think it probably is because I haven't heard that. But let's continue.
He was an adult. He wasn't a kid. So some of these social media platforms may not even grant them access to his account if they don't have somewhat of a legal search warrant. So I just wish that they would have come together as a community and got to the bottom of this, got information, and then shared it to the public instead of, making it a divisive thing up front.
Yeah. Brandon, we're still waiting on the toxicology report, but from interviews with Nolan's friends, we do know that drinking heavily was involved, and that Nolan was drinking. And you have on good authority that drugs potentially could have been involved as well. You also visited the island. Just what are your takeaways from what we know about the conditions there and the status of the investigation?
Well, at this point, and I always encourage people to wait until the full investigation is out before you make a conclusion or a determination of whether somebody's guilty or not. Going out to Horn Island was very revealing to me, because the initial statements from people who are talking about this, especially the Nolan Wells family, that they were acting as if they just dropped Nolan off at an abandoned island where no one was around to watch him get murdered or something. And then now you go and look at it and you go, well, no, there was tons of people there. That gives me encouragement that somebody saw what happened.
He is such a liar. No one ever said that. And I keep telling you all that. No one ever said that they dropped him off at an abandoned island. He is such a BSer. Now, he knows darn well that everybody saw the video footage and the pictures and everything. And also, it's a known fact that people go to Horn Island almost every year for the 4th of July, and that there's hundreds of people out there. No one ever said that. See, here's the thing. He's trying to paint this fictitious narrative as to try to say that the parents were wrong, okay, and that everyone who's thinking this were all wrong. No, we weren't. We already knew that there was lots of people there, and it doesn't matter. And here's the thing. Now, I want you to pay attention to this, because this is the main part right here. This is the main ingredient in the pot of bullshit that he's cooking. Okay? For one, people are saying that if they left him there and there was so many people, not so few, not that there was no one there and it was isolated. People are saying, and what they have been saying, is that if there were so many hundreds of people there and he was actually left on the island, then why in the hell didn't anyone see him? But now they come out and say that 2 people supposedly saw him after the boat left. Well, like I said earlier, I would like to know, those people that supposedly saw him, did they talk to him? What was he doing? Who was he with? Was he by himself? Was he with a young woman? And how do you know what time you saw him if people keep their phones on boats for the most part when they're there? What made them look at their watch and see what time it was to know that the boat was gone? How did they know that the boat that he came on was gone? How did they even know what boat he came on? Okay? That's what I'd like to know. And, according to reports, I believe I told you all this, Nolan was the one who manned the boat when they were coming in. So if somebody knew that, why would they have thought the boat was gone? Well, there's many boats out there. How would they know, out of all those boats out there, amongst all those people, how would they know that Nolan's boat that he came out there on was gone when they saw him? Who's paying attention to all of that? This is giving the same type of energy and the vibe of when those lying devils said that Carmelo was under the tent and he was told 15 times to leave. I told you, I said, who the hell was counting? Who was counting to know that it was exactly 15 times? And who told him this 15 times? Was it one person? Was it multiple people? And who were the people? And you counted each time that each one of them said it? No, they didn't. These are the lies. These are the lies.
But it also proves in many ways that they didn't just abandon him as if he was a little kid on the island by himself. So seeing the island going there gave me a pretty good understanding about what happened.
Well, certainly injecting race, and we don't have all the facts either, is not helpful. And we will continue to watch this. Brandon Tatum, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate your accounting of it.
Okay, thank you for having me on.
Good to see you.
She said, certainly injecting race when we don't have all the facts. Let me tell you all something. I like her nerve, because as soon as something happens to one of them and they even think or suspect, I want you to pay attention, and they even think or suspect that a Black person was involved, they absolutely look at them as guilty. They don't even have to go through all of this. They don't even have to have evidence Okay, the black person is immediately arrested. Immediately arrested. Okay, let me give you all some examples. Now, you all remember during the it was one podcast that Rach Batum Tatum was on. It was when he was speaking to Stephen A. Smith and that black guy who used to be a prosecutor. If you all remember that, I showed you the video the other day, right? And so remember how Tatum asked the guy if he could name one instance where the black people were accused of doing something to one white person or whatever, and they were immediately arrested. And that he said Central Park 5. And then he kind of dismissed that as, oh, that's just one. You just asked for one, fool. And that's what he does. He keeps moving the goalpost. He'll ask you to name a scenario. And then when you do, he did the same exact thing to Cheslin. And here's the thing, though. There are no reported cases that I've ever seen or studied of one white person going off on a boat with black folk and not turning back up. Find a case. You see, he knows there's no case to compare. And so that's why he didn't think that the guy would be able to come up with anything. But he brought up the Central Park 5. But let me tell you all something else. There is a case. I just want you to pay attention to how when a black person comes up missing or gets killed or dies, and then there's, white people that are under suspicion because maybe they were the last ones to have seen him, or people know that the person may have been with them or whatever. Let me just tell you something. This is the kind of bullcrap we see, the kind of BS we see when it's a white person, when white people are the ones that are being scrutinized and looked at as suspects. This is what we see right here. Meanwhile, a white person can commit a crime, make up a fictitious black person that does not even exist, and the police will find someone to arrest. They will literally find someone to arrest. Let's talk about it. A few years ago, if you all remember, I think around 2020 or 2021, I reported to you all the story of the white woman who lied and said that she was assaulted in the park. And she said it was a black man, and she gave a whole description. And then they go and arrest a black man who was completely innocent because the story never happened. They arrest him, okay, because of Karen's description. And she sticks with her story. But then they find out there's cameras in the area, and guess what? The camera showed that no one attacked her. No one at all. Now, I don't know why she made that lie up. I don't try to figure out the mindset of devils, because there's no explanation for why devils do what they do. They're just devils. Okay? So with that all being said, they arrested someone for a fake story just because the alleged victim claimed that the assailant was black. You see, they'll get them justice even when it's a lie. They'll try to get them justice. Let's not forget about Susan Smith, who drove her own kids into that lake to drown, then lied and made up a fictitious black man. And they had her all over the news, press conference, and all of that. And she's sitting there with crocodile tears. They never, ever suspected that maybe she's lying. Maybe she's the one that did it. And I was very young when that happened, but I remember knowing that she was lying. It was obvious to me. Well, of course, I have, very good discernment, but I knew that she was lying and that she was the one who did it. And I was wondering why in the hell the police didn't know that. Let's talk about the case of Charles Stewart, who in 1989 murdered his pregnant wife and then made up this fictitious black man who carjacked them or whatever and killed his wife. All of the evidence at the scene, if the police had bothered to investigate it thoroughly, would have shown them that he was the one that did it. But they went out looking for this black man. They automatically believed him. He was the killer. You know how they finally figured out that he was the killer? Because his brother-in-law came and told the police something about he had mentioned that he wanted to do something to his sister, the wife's brother. Went to the police and said something about he's threatened my sister before, or she feared him, or something like that. But other than that, they took his word automatically. You see, white people are very often given the benefit of the doubt. And what they say is gold, because I'm white and I say so. Okay? That's how that goes. That's why Tatum is sitting up here, the tap dancer. That's why he's sitting there saying, well, they said this, and they told me this, and they showed me receipts. Here's the thing. If they showed him the receipts, how come the police don't have the receipts in their possession? Because that would be evidence, right? Wouldn't that be evidence? Tap dance Tatum? So you mean to tell me they have evidence And there's a whole police investigation allegedly going on because I don't even believe they're investigating a darn thing. They're just passing time. That's what it looks like to me. But so you mean to tell me they have this secret hidden evidence and they showed it to you, Brandon Tatum? Well, here's the thing. He was so quick to show that text message that he claims Judge Ashley Cole sent to Mrs. Wansley. He was so quick to show that. Show us the rest of the evidence that they showed you. Show us the video clip of Trayson crying off camera. Okay? C-Stan called him Butter Biscuit Tatum. Exactly. Make it all make sense. But hold on. Hold on. Like, sub, everyone, please like and share. Now, this is the lady. Remember, I told you all on yesterday that Bart Edmondson Jr. has basically sent a cease and desist to this this social media content creator, right? Threatening to sue her. This is one of her videos right here, Kimberly. Okay, so let's get into it because she's going in on them. And this is why they're mad. This is why they're talking about suing her and telling her to take down her videos. Obviously, she hasn't taken it down. Any of them, from the looks of it.
It's completely understandable that you're trying to protect your kid because he's going to the NFL. And we know he didn't do nothing to Nolan. But you just lied and told me he never saw Nolan, and then there's a picture of him with Nolan on a boat. You need to go to the police, sir. Your son's going to end up going down for this if you don't go to the police. Now, we think he's innocent right now. But the more you keep lying and the more photos that keep popping up, it doesn't help his case. It does. He has the most to lose. All them other raggedy kids that aren't star kickers. Your son has the most to lose. You need to go to the police and you need to tell them exactly what you know. Okay? Look, this ain't I'm just trying to find justice for his family. I'm sure your kid is a nice guy. I'm sure he never did nothing to Nolan. But you already got caught lying once on my page today. Now, I'm going to go through and catch you lying about 10 more times, and I'm going to give it to Crump, and your kid's going to go down. Mr. Dean, sir, it's completely understandable that you're
Okay. I mean, and this is the thing, though. Now, they supposedly had shut down their social medias, right? They had shut down their social medias, but funny thing is now they're sitting here reading people's social comments and social media, watching people's videos and getting upset. Okay? I thought they shut down their social medias. So y'all are back online to watch and see what people are saying because y'all are worried and concerned because you're being scrutinized. Even Bart left a comment, okay, on somebody's post, and we'll get into that later. So anyway, with that all being said, I just find it all interesting. This is what the devils do. Like stuff, everyone please like and share. Thank you in advance. Now let's go to this next clip. Hold on, beloveds. Pulling up my X account. I mean, the lies just keep coming. And the cover-up is very massive, in my opinion. I can only venture to guess how many people in the town of Ocean Springs are actually involved in it. And I believe many. Okay? Just like with the Carmelo case. Here we go. Likes up, everyone please like and share. Thank you in advance.
Winston Jr. is a football player at Ocean Springs, has already been investigated or questioned alongside Jerry Atkinson, the grandpappy, the one that personally called the captain and said, "We don't need a tow." Apparently, the GPS for his boat was pulled alongside with the other GPS for the other boat. Jennifer Pyron was also pulled in for questioning alongside Jerry and Bart. Now, if we listen to this clip from Warren Hudson himself, he says that he was on Bart's boat and that Nolan was not.
What was Nolan on? Nolan was on Wyatt Pyron's 22 Triton. On the way out, I went with my buddy Bart because we had a lot of friends from college coming down, and I called Bart that morning. I was like, "Hey man, can you take your boat out?" And he was like, "Yeah, well, my dad's decided not to go. I'll take your boat. I'll take you and your friends, of course." I mean, he's a buddy of mine. And so Bart pulled up at the dock, and I mean, I rode out there with Bart, and a lot of the girls that go to college with my friends and I, and Nolan rode out on the Triton. And then we had a Palm Beach, 18 Palm Beach. There was 4 guys on that. There was like 8 people on the Triton. And then there was 8 or 9 people on the Triton. And then there was the rest of the group, which was probably ranged from maybe 10 to 15 or 16 people on my buddy's tide line, which is 24 tide line. So, I mean, we're all freaking out. All of our, we're not focused on anything else other than the boat. Well, then eventually my buddy Bart on the tide line is like, I'm going to pull y'all out. Eventually Bart pulls us out. We left at 4:30, but we really weren't pulled out away from everybody. We were probably about a quarter mile out, and we had the towing strap pulled from, Bart's port side cleat or starboard side cleat, and he was on our starboard side bow. And so it was rubbing on his power pole. So Bart turned around, pulled up next to our boat, and we were just trying to get it situated. So that's when Wyatt called sea tow. And Wyatt was like, calls him.
Around the sea tow, right? You guys called it in.
Right.
They have that record of you guys, making that emergency call.
Right.
But then there's this, I guess, graphic of you guys traveling at a slow speed. Then all of a sudden you accelerate.
Right.
People are saying that that's an indication of something afoot or foul play.
My buddy Bart drove his boat up next to ours after he pulled us out away from the island. And then he towed us a little more. When my buddy would put the boat in gear and forward, the motor would come right back up. The captain of the boat got in the water, pulled the plug out the boat, got back in the boat, and hit it. And I mean, that's why we came to a stop, so he could jump in the water, pull the plug, and then we hauled in. There was no stopping, because if you do stop, the water starts coming back in the boat because the plug's out. So
there's nothing nefarious there. It's just a formality of trying to unplug the boat and
absolutely not.
Get it docked properly. All that has gone on. If Nolan was here, what do you think he would say about all this?
If Nolan knew this was going on, he'd be sick to his stomach. I mean, Nolan hated all hate.
But again, are we taking Warren's word for it? I don't know. Y'all are going to have to listen and tell me what y'all hear. But I know what I heard in that audio, in the full enhanced audio. Now, I know that I heard somebody said, "Damn it, Bart," in that audio that was enhanced by an engineer. Now, TMZ has the audio, but they have a chopped version of it that they put out and said that they got this audio directly from the call. But Jeanette went ahead and did that audio thing on it, and she enhanced it to where we can hear the isolated conversation going on in the back. I'm not telling y'all what to hear. All I'm telling you is what I hear. And I'm telling you what I know, because if this was a group of Black kids, baby, that phone call would not have even been necessary to hear before they were put in jail. So this right here should be enough to incriminate some motherfucking body. Because even if what happened was not nefarious in the intent, the covering up of it is. And Tracy gonna sit up there on that interview talking about, oh, Ocean Springs takes care of Ocean Springs. The fuck does that mean, little boy? And then want to turn the conversation against the mama. You are talking about this boy being your best friend, and you got all this energy, all this pent up anger for the mom of your so-called brother. See how these boys have no interest, no urgency, no concern about what happened to Nolan, because they know what happened to Nolan. Their concern is making it look like it was an accident. Their concern is making it out to be like they are innocent and cleared of all wrongdoing. Nobody did nothing wrong. But let them boys keep talking, because they keep on telling on themselves. Let them keep talking, because the more they talk, the more they dig a hole. The more the math ain't mathing.
Okay, no lies detected. That's exactly what they're doing. Okay, that's exactly what they're doing. At the end of the day. Now let's go to this post from Bart. Yeah, out here commenting on people's posts, trying to clear themselves up. Now, here's what Bart says, and he put the word love, but I think he meant live. Okay, so he responded to someone named Deadly Lovers. He said, "Hey, I just want you to know Nolan was a friend of mine. I want justice and the facts to come out. I just want you to know I live in Wyoming and have not been in past Christian for over a year. I grieve for Nolan and want the same as everyone else. Thank you for your support." So he grieves for Nolan. Is that what it is? He lives in Wyoming and hasn't been there for a year. But, your buddy Warren just said that he was on your boat. We saw your name on the Coast Guard report. And then we have also learned that the police paid you a visit. Now, if I were to sit here and think long and hard and scratch my head a time or two, my question would be, if they never suspected anything shady happened and that they didn't think any of them did anything wrong, I'm just curious as to why they went and checked with Bart, okay, right after this happened, got his GPS information, wanted to look at his boat, and then did the same thing to Jerry Advocacy, which is Wyatt's grandfather, and also Jennifer Pyron, which is Wyatt's mother. Why were these people questioned? Okay, make it all make sense. It's a whole lot of covering up going on, in my opinion. Like I have said before, and all these people sitting there to tell us there's nothing to see here, folks. You know, you all need to stop painting narratives. That's what they're trying to basically say that we're doing. We're all out here just trying to make something out of nothing. Let's go to one more clip, and then I'm going to be out of here because I have to come back later. Now, I want you all to see how Tatum reacts as he sits here and watches The View when Sunny Hostin is giving her thoughts. It's so interesting how he seems to just be so against any thoughts or ideas that anyone has opposing what those young men have told him. Or shall I say those young thugs, because that's exactly what they are, in my opinion.
And is conducting an independent investigation, so much so because this happened in Mississippi. There are some racial undertones to this. He was the only Black kid on an island full of kids that were white. And his family is saying that he would have never, on the boat rather, and his family is saying that he would have just never stayed on the island and been left behind by his friends. His family also said that this kid, Trayston Shepard, they don't know him. So it's just so confusing because there were 3 boys with him that were good friends with him.
What are they saying?
And they turned off their social media accounts. They say that they have cooperated with the police, but they kept his phone and didn't give it to his parents.
And we're still awaiting autopsy results. And this is not.
It's funny how Sonny didn't say that they were Black kids. Maybe I'm wrong. The parents seem to say that at least one of his very close friends he went with was Black.
You see how he's the one making it about race? What the hell does that even matter? What the hell does that even matter? Yes, Inspector, I see his face, feigning confusion. You know, like he doesn't understand why she's saying whatever she's saying. But pay attention to how he's the one who constantly makes this about race. Okay, when he had Warren and Trayston on the show, he was asking them about the race of the people that were involved in their groups. They started talking about Mexicans, Asians, biracials, and all of that. Why does that matter to Tatum? Because he wants to paint the narrative that, oh, y'all are trying to act like he was the only Black person out there. There was other Black people. No one ever said that he was the only Black person there, specifically because we know that Javon was also there, who was also Black. But the bottom line is what people have said, because again, he's trying to change and paint the narrative. People have simply said that he was the only Black person upon their boat. And Javon would have been on that boat too, but they didn't allow Javon to get on. They told him it was too crowded. They blocked him from getting on, allegedly. But let's continue.
That kid is a part of this group. That kid has cooperated with law enforcement. Why are they not saying that it was also Black kids he went there with? Y'all,
and also, let me just say this. When he starts doing this kind of stuff, when he brings that up, he's trying to divert the attention away from the main point of the conversation. You understand what I'm saying? What Sonny was saying, he didn't want to keep the focus on what she was saying. So he changes the direction of the conversation by saying, oh, but wait a minute. She's not even saying anything about the other Black kids that were there. She's not bringing that up. What the hell does that have to do with what she's saying? Why are you bringing up race? And then somebody in the chat named Shabby, who's probably a troll, says, hold on. Says you're only talking about white people. Yeah, I am. I'm talking about the white people who were on that boat when they made the call to Cito, who we heard in the background saying, damn it, Bart, check his chest. Nolan's about to die. Yeah, that's who I'm talking about. That's who I'm talking about. Exactly. Those people. They happen to be white. Yes. So what's your point?
telling you, as sure as I'm here, sitting here today, if we find out that he had black friends there just as many as white friends. And if the black friends saw him last, or he was trying to hook up with some black girl or something like that, and this all went down like that, I'm going to rip. I'm not going to say what I'm going to do. You know what's going to happen. I'm going to show no mercy if it comes out like that. And I just feel like it's heading in that direction, unfortunately, because to retain the civil rights stuff right off the bat is crazy. Roll it.
Currently being investigated as a homicide, but there's a lot of reason, I think, to suspect foul play, because this is when they say he was left on an island. This isn't like Grand Cayman. This is literally like a sandbar. There's no running water. Nobody would willingly stay back without a cell phone.
The phone was found because the mom did the Life 360 and traced it to one of the friends' houses. The thing that shocks me is whoever parts with their phone. This is a young person. Yeah, this is a young person, and the his mom was saying that there's no Snapchat. It was more common for her son to have documented certain things. The phone wasn't in his possession, and things seem to be gone. That off the phone. That does raise some suspicion.
And those kids said.
And I agree with her on this, that it does raise suspicion if that is the fact pattern. That's the one thing that confuses me, is that why would the kid not have his phone? But then also, if they were malicious enough to kill him in a lake or whatever, they just throw his phone in there. Why would you keep his phone, delete the phone, then tell the mama you got the?
That's for the police to figure out. Okay, he's trying to act like that doesn't make any sense. I've told you all before why they wouldn't have deleted or thrown away the phone. First of all, they could have panicked, okay, and forgot. That's for number one. These are young people, and they're not expert killers, and they're not the smartest people, the smartest people, I'm sure. But also, more importantly, a killer could keep someone's phone to get rid of incriminating evidence in that phone, okay? And the only way for them to tap into his social media, if that was something they wanted to do, which I believe it was, since the mother said his Snapchat, both of his Snapchats were deleted clean. So with that all been said, they would need his phone to delete whatever was uploaded on there, even though the police or anyone, any authority, FBI, whomever, could still retrieve that information by simply sending a subpoena to the platform, the social media platform, which Ben Crump has done. Okay? So let's just think about it. If there were some pictures that they took with them and Nolan, and they didn't want those things to be seen, and Nolan had already put them on his social media or whatever, yeah, they would want to get in his phone so they can delete that stuff. Okay, so that's a reason they would still have the phone in their possession, and they could be planning that we'll just get rid of it later after we take everything down. Does that make sense? Because Tatum's too stupid, clearly, to figure that all out. Or maybe he just doesn't want to.
Phone, and you know that you've done crimes associated with this phone. I'm not saying it is or isn't, but I'm saying that is suspicious he didn't have his phone, but I also think it's suspicious, or at least
The family, and is conducting an independent investigation. So much so because it's happened in the Mississippi. There are some racial undertones to this. He was the only black kid on an island full of kids that were white. And his family is saying that he would have never, on the boat rather, and his family is saying that he would have just never stayed on the island and been.
Yeah, who's going to want to stay on an island by themselves, okay? And C-Stan says he's going to look real stupid in the end. Well, beloved, he already looks real stupid in my opinion, but I get your point. He absolutely is. And thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, Ashkan says, and if you leave the phone with the body, they can ping it from the tower and find the body. Exactly. Okay, now he's acting like this is so outlandish that they kept the phone. And like I told you all, Warren sat there and said that he told the mother, Mrs. Wansley, that they had the phone. Well, why did she have to track it then? Okay, let's go to one more clip. I'm going to be out of here, beloveds. Like I said, I'll probably be back. Well, I'll definitely be back sometime this afternoon.
Moonwell's story is eating me up. And so we're going to look at this from a media literacy standpoint, because I saw some really concerning reporting today where a law enforcement official was essentially blaming Nolan for his own death.
Nolan Wells was on a boat. He left from a private dock area in the Ocean Springs area and proceeded with his friends to Horn Island.
Wells was visiting the barrier island 10 miles from the Gulf Coast, boating with friends, last seen about 3 p.m. Saturday.
They left and went back without Nolan. From what we understand, he chose to stay there.
And so I know that the word gaslighting is used and not always in the right way, but this is 10 miles off the coast on a barrier island with his friends who came back. He didn't. They had his phone. They're saying that he chose to stay. Was he supposed to swim? He had no way to call him. They left him for dead. But you have a law enforcement official saying, from what they understand, he chose to stay. He's not saying from what we've been able to determine, what we've been able to confirm and verify. He's saying from what we understand. He understands that because that's what they were told. Why is he repeating what they were told from the friends who left this man to die? Why is he repeating that on national television? Then why is a news organization that has multiple layers of producers as well as a legal and standards department allowing this to be broadcast without pushing back? I didn't even hear the word suspicious in the piece. And I am a Black mother who is at my wit's end with how this country continues to gaslight us and then expects us to stay silent. Because this is not normal. The reporter can only push back so much. So this is not about the reporter. It's about the organizations that handpick the Black faces that then go out and report these stories that are gaslighting to the American public. This is problematic. So this is how I can help by speaking up to say, hey, let's look at this critically. Let's look through a media literacy standpoint. Let's look at the information that's being presented. Let's consider why it's being presented this way, who it's coming from, what's being left out, what questions are not being answered, what questions aren't being asked. This is not okay. This is not how this story should be being reported out. This is the impact of seeing Black and brown journalists systemically laid off, fired, not renewed. Please tag some of your favorite independent journalists below, especially independent Black and brown journalists.
Now, I don't know if you all remember or not, but I played this lady's video because this is something that I spoke to you all about 3 weeks ago about media literacy, okay, and how they put these spins on things. Okay, and you see these stations, specifically Fox, you see how they help to paint the narrative. Now, if this were a case, they really weren't giving it much coverage at first. But if there had been the reverse roles, Fox would have been reporting on this every day, 24/7, all day long. I could only imagine the headlines. Okay, I could only have imagined the headlines that these devils would have put up. And for people to say it's not about race, but then to constantly point out that, oh, there was a Black person there too. Oh, even the Black people said this. Well, you don't care what Black people say any other time, Rage Batum Tatum, you tap dancing Negro. He doesn't care about what they say any other time. But now all of a sudden it's so important to him what Black people say. Yeah, because he wants the Black people that can help paint the narrative. People like Tristan with those dirty ass pants. Okay, I'm going to go to one more video. I lied. I forgot about this guy right here. And then Leon said news is very biased. Of course it is. And listen, here's the thing. One of the main objectives for the news, specifically Fox, is to paint narratives, fictitious narratives about Black people. I keep telling you all that Max Weber, okay, before he died, he said one of the things that he hated the most is when he was a journalist was the stories that they had to create about the African American community. Okay? Now, that's just a darn shame, but we know they do this. It's blatantly in our faces. Think about the times when, you see, they have a habit. Okay, the mainstream media has a habit of demonizing Black victims. Let's talk about it for a second. George Floyd, knee on the neck until he died by a white police officer and other officers who were also white, one Asian, but still classified as white. Okay, because Asian is an ethnicity. So when these people go by race, it's going to be white. That's why people were foolishly saying, oh, they're these MAGA minions. Oh, it wasn't an all-white jury in the Carmelo Anthony case. It actually was, because each one of those people classify as white under the term of race. Their ethnicity is something totally different. So anyway, with that all being said, at the end of the day, they want to paint these narratives, okay? And then they always want to get these token Black people to have them come out and speak like they're speaking for all Black people to try to paint and create this narrative. Nellen said Mississippi history is spreading. And that's the thing. Mississippi has a nefarious history. But let's get to this next clip. Then I'll finish my commentary and then we're out of here. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. And what I was also going to say about George Floyd is, mind you, George Floyd was not even guilty of having a counterfeit $20 bill. But the main thing they kept trying to say, the MAGA million types, they were saying that he was on fentanyl. They were saying that he had substances in his system. Okay, think about that, because that's the same thing they're going to say about Nolan. And how do we know they're going to say that Nolan had illegal substances in his system? Because they've already started setting the stage for it. Why do you think they have Tap Dancer? Why do you think he came out and said, oh, well, I was told by a credible source that when the toxicology comes out, they said they believe it's going to be 100% proof that he had something in his system. How could they be so certain? Are they going to get Warren's dad, who works in toxicology, to doctor the evidence? Or did they inject him with something possibly? I believe it'll be one of the two, if that be the case. But it looks like he's already setting the stage for us, getting us prepped for it. So when it comes, he can say, well, see, told you. I already knew that's what it was going to be. But that's what they do. They demonize Black victims. They're demonizing Nolan, being so disrespectful, saying this young man took illegal substances, saying that he was heavily drinking, not just drinking, heavily drinking. Like this young man was some sort of alcoholic or just somebody who didn't know how to control himself. Like he wasn't disciplined, which we know that he was, because that's what made him an elite athlete. But they've always done this. Whereas when one of their people do something, even when they're nefarious, they still give them praises and make excuses. They'll take their serial killers, their mass shooters, they'll take them to Burger King to get them food before taking them to jail. But we're doing too much? Please.
That was a Juneteenth celebration on Horn Island. Bear with me for a second. What if Nolan Wells was a young white girl and she had gone out there with 3 Black teenage female friends in their boat that they borrowed from their grandma, and they go out to Horn Island, where it is almost exclusively Black people celebrating Juneteenth, and they come back without her, and that white girl ends up being found face down in the water 2 days later, and her friends, now 7 of them, all black teens, come back on the boat without her, having been drinking all day. And I would guess that a toxicology report would show that they were doing a lot more than drinking. That's just how it is these days. Do you think that 3.5 weeks after that incident, we wouldn't have a single arrest and the autopsy report would not be released yet? And do you know why not? Because the system of white supremacy is protecting these boys' image in the public. Because if they do end up getting charged, the people that are going to decide whether they're guilty or not are watching the nightly news. And if they see them get arrested for underage drinking, which the cops could have already done, it tarnishes their reputation. If they see them get arrested for operating a boat while drinking, which they could have already done, it tarnishes their reputation. But if it was a boat full of Black teenagers drinking, operating a boat, and leaving their white friend face down in the surf, you can bet your ass that we would have already seen mugshots all over the television to condition the jury, to prepare them to return a guilty verdict. What if
Exactly. That's exactly how that goes. Okay. That's exactly how that goes. So, Inspector says Asian is not a race. It is a race, not an ethnicity. Anyone can quickly Google that. Here's the thing. Yes, Asian is a race, but I'm saying Asian people have a specific ethnicity. Okay. You have Chinese, Japanese. Those are ethnicities. Okay. Asian is a broad statement that they call those people, but their ethnicities are from wherever they came from. China, Korea. That's what I'm talking about. And for the most part, as I have said to you all plenty of times, many of these foreigners that come here, many of the people that migrate here, they absolutely have them. The U.S. does this to keep their own numbers up. They have them listed as white, and that's just a fact. You can Google that too, for the record. Okay, remember I told you all that big controversy with the Black Egyptians who came here, and they were almost forced to put that they were white, and they did not want to. Okay, they did not want to. Now, with that all being said, I'm going to conclude the broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in once again. Please like, share, subscribe, and all of that. And I will see you all later. Turn your notifications on. Okay, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Until next time, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.
Mississippi Delta, still crying the same tears. From Emmett to Nolan, how many more years? Copper blood in these waters, Most High see us here. Peace be still, but the truth gonna appear. Emmett Till, young boy whistling in the store. White lies turned to lynch and dragged him from the door. Beaten, shot river, swallowed him whole. Open casket, mama showed the world his soul. Nolan Wells, 18, boat ride on the 4th. Only black in the circle, now they say he drowned 4. Horn Island whispers, friends came back without him. Mississippi history, still hunting, still doubting. Same state, same pain, different name. Black boy lost in the Delta rain. When will it change? Lord, when will it change? Ancestors screaming, we never left this stage. 1955, Chicago boy down south for the summer breeze. Money, Mississippi, wrong place for a black team to breathe. Brian stole maybe a whistle, maybe just a smile. Jim Crow code broken, now they coming in the night. Wild Roy and Malone snatched him from his uncle's floor. Tortured that baby, fanti round, body in the Tallahatchie roar. Mutilated face, mama said let the world see. Acquitted by all white jury, not guilty, set him free. Sparked the movement, Montgomery rose from the flames. But the Delta dirt still holding black boys' names. Emmett was 14, just a child in his prime. Lynched for existing in a twisted mind. Emmett Till, Nolan Wells, Delta shadows ringing bells. Black life cheap in these haunted lands. Most High coming with justice in his hands. 2026 July 4th, independence gone wrong. Broke the Horn Island with the crew, singing freedom songs. 18 years young, big heart, only copper in the mix. Friends white as the judge that let killers walking. 55 disappeared that day, body found on the shore 2 nights later. They say drowning, no foul play, but the family know better. Questions swimming deeper than the Gulf water's cold. Why leave your phone? Why the silence from the foe? Mississippi again, history echoing loud. Ben Crump calling for truth, independent, autopsy proud. Was it accident or the past rising from the mud? Black boy with white friends, trust issues in our blood.
Why the same soil claim my sons? Ancestor never left, we still the chosen one.
From Till's open casket to Nolan's unanswered call. In time signs, Leviathan rising, watch the fall. No hate, just black love, we hold each other tight. But stop crashing out on each other and demand what's right.
Peace be still,
through the storm we prevail.
Father's child,
we shall not fail. Both in Mississippi, Delta's cruel embrace. One lynched open, one body lost without a trace. Emmett's killers brag after the verdict came. Nolan's story fogged in speculation and shame. 14 or 18, young kings taken too soon. Waters claim the bodies, but the spirit touched the moon. Same fear, same doubt, same racist undercurrent flow. But we wiser now, cameras, voices won't let go. And